The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Ben Ark from LN Bits.
Hello.
Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
Bye bye, 2023.
Josh Shigala from thestandard.io.
Bah, humbug.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Bitcoin Group year in review. But first, India will block Binance, Kraken, and other exchanges in crypto crackdown. India's Financial Intelligence Unit said that the crypto exchanges were operating illegally in the country. Now their websites will be blocked. India's ban accuses the exchanges of offering their service to customers inside of India against India's law. These outside companies that perhaps they're using with a VPN or something like that and probably have more liquidity. Victoria Jones, what do you think about India banning Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
I've actually heard of something similar happening in America. And also, I've noticed banks starting to ask. I mean, they were particularly pernicious beforehand, but starting to ask more questions and being more picky about crypto exchanges. And also, if you do, I mean, even Revolut, which is a common one that people use, are now saying that you have to answer some crypto questions before you can use their platform. So it seems to be a very popular theme at the moment. I'm wondering what's on the horizon. So yeah, and to be fair, I think most of us probably have anticipated something like this happening at some stage. We all know that it's the enemy of the government. If they're going to have to come out guns blazing, it sounds like this is a reasonable strategy. There are all sorts of rumors in the wider financial system of there being trouble on the horizon, and it wouldn't surprise me if something happened and then this got implemented straight away. So yeah, it is worrying. But this is a call to action for all of those developers who are working on decentralized systems. It's just like your moment is coming. I hope you're ready.
Ben Ark, I thought this was the age of Aquarius. Bitcoin ETFs, everyone accepting crypto. Suddenly, India blocks the websites. What do you think?
I mean, I think it may be related, and hopefully, um, I think it might be a good thing for ClearNet, Bitcoin behavior, people buying Bitcoin from exchanges. It might be that all these countries have realized that this is an industry which isn't going anywhere, and it needs to be cleared up and regulated just as any other industry would. I've noticed that Kraken have on their site a warning that by the 3rd of Jan there'll be a compulsory extra assessment for people trading in the UK. So I think these exchanges have realized, and they're getting a lot of letters from regulators saying they need to actually comply with the laws of where they're operating within. And I hope it's just a process of, the ClearNet Bitcoin industry, which some people want to engage in, sort of being cleaned up a little bit and is having less of these rogue Wild West style exchanges and platforms where eventually everyone loses their money. They're fun, when you can buy and sell Bitcoin in unregulated whatever way, but un-KYC'd way, but then ultimately, they always come with a rug pull at some point. So, yeah, so hopefully it's that. It could also be part of like some sort of more crazy cabal style attack on Bitcoin, like the USD World Reserve hegemony is being chipped away at, and that's huge. Like you really can't underestimate how extreme and big a story it is for the USD to potentially not be the world reserve currency. We've had that since World War II, and it was a design decision by Harry Dexter White and well, not John Maynard Keynes, but at the Bretton Woods Agreement. Whatever comes next, there will be, another moment where powerful people are sat in a room saying, what are we going to use after this? And the idea of an apolitical money, an apolitical medium of exchange will be floated around. And now we actually have this thing called Bitcoin, and maybe, behind the scenes, a lot of countries are thinking that Bitcoin is a very good prospect for a future world reserve currency for people to trade things like oil in. So, so it could be. So yeah, it's either a good thing or a bad thing. Like I don't think there's any sitting on the fence on it. Like they're either we're trying to clean up the industry because they're going to end up using it, or they're trying to attack it because they're worried about losing their grip on the USD. I don't know. Like it's all speculation, but it is interesting how it seems to be happening across the board in lots of different countries all at the same time: US, India, UK, Europe as well. So it is interesting that there's this huge crackdown on the Bitcoin. I suppose it could be also FTX related on that front, but yeah.
It would be world changing if the United States dollar was not the world's reserve currency. It might be one of those things we talk about where Bitcoin goes to $1 million, but it only buys a hamburger because the dollar has collapsed so much.
Yeah, exactly.
We,
600
we,
billion,
we
baby.
can't really picture what it would be like. And again, it's one of those things where I'm not sure we want to see what it's like. I know we want Bitcoin to do well. And I've even heard some Bitcoiners, Adam Meister was backing off recently saying, yeah, it won't be the world's reserve currency, but it's a great way to send money around the internet. And I agree. I think it's still great for that. But yes, it would be a major change, perhaps a catastrophe.
It's because you're an American, so it'd be a catastrophe for you. Everyone else, it'd be better.
For everyone else, it would be better. It would be a catastrophe for the Americans. I agree with that. Dan, Eve, what do you think about
Well, so it wasn't it only about 5 days ago that China and Saudis made a deal that they're no longer using the dollar for oil trading. So that it seems like it's happening. Although Argentina did I hear somewhere that he's the guy we thought it was going to be the next El Salvador, but he's now saying he wants the dollar to be used as Argentina's currency, which is a bit of a U-turn. So yeah, seems a bit odd. But the fact is, all these big companies, the BlackRocks, the Fidelities, all of these other companies, they're entering the scene, and they're going to want some like control over the whole environment. So if they can chokehold these exchanges, restrict them as much as possible, that's going to help them control the supply of Bitcoin and how it can be traded and bought for their ETFs, their spot ETFs. There's also the fact that my dog he wants me to throw a thing, but I can't get to it. There's also the fact that in a bear market, right, that's when the regulators will hit everywhere. And although we've had a pump this year, it was with all the news of the scandals of FTX, and it's almost like when Bitcoin's pumping, regulators tend to not really view it that bad, but they seem to scoop in when everyone's on a downer, right? When all these people are losing money because Bitcoin is going down, that's when the regulators all sweep in. And as Victoria's saying, I also saw the multiple different bank accounts, and all of them have now got these random crypto warnings that pop up every now and then, informing me that I'm going to be scammed in some sort of way. So there's just like this swathe of information across the board, and it does seem like a big kind of all out conglomerate, right, of companies that are trying to dissuade you from getting into crypto so that they can hold the reins when they go forth with their ETFs and their other Bitcoin products for their own banking needs and banking institutions.
Josh Shigala? Certainly fortune favors the bold, right? India, shouldn't they get on board?
Well, definitely, they should, and they eventually will. It's just there's no stopping it. On the same note, we've just seen the Nigerian central bank reverse its ban. So I think we've also seen China do that now. So China's reversing its ban, or being a bit more light-handed. The Nigerian bank wants to really look at deeply integrating it now. So they tend to sort of ban it and then go full hog the other direction and deeply integrate cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or whatever, in the technology in some sort of way. I do agree with so it's a different story with central banks versus retail banks. But yeah, the retail banks, I know a friend of mine in Australia tried to just send, it wasn't even much. Like, I mean, you know, I guess it's different for anyone, but like 5 grand or something, up into you know, into Kraken, I think, or what was it, some Australian exchange, and they their bank account got frozen, and this was sending to us, got frozen. Then they had to like spend ages to try and get through to the bank, you know, because I don't know why, they're just so inefficient and crap. Um, and and then they yeah, that's right. And they were calling in from overseas. And so they got hit with massive long, like hour long, they would be on hold for hours, you know, and then they'd suddenly the phone would hang up and they'd have to, what? No, and ring up again. And so they got hit with a huge phone bill of like, I don't know, it was massive. It was like $300 or something, you know, just for that call. And when they finally got through to the bank, they had to spend, it was like half an hour with some specialist who was grilling them about where the money's going, why they're doing that, do they know much about crypto, this and that and the other thing. And and the explanation that came back, because they got very terse back to the bank, the explanation that came back is that they're just having so many scammers scamming people out of money that that they just have to do that, because once it's got, like, if it's a transfer from bank to bank, there's insurances, there's revert bank reversal, there's stuff that they can do. But with crypto, it's sort of gone, and then they have to deal with it, and their insurance companies are cracking down on it. So fascinating. It's a fascinating time, but at the end of the day, it's a losing battle, similar to Napster, similar to everything else in the music industry. And it'll be the same with Microsoft, OpenAI, and the New York Times lawsuit. Like the fact is that the internet has come for money, and when the internet comes for your industry, you better start worrying for your industry, because it will be disrupted in a certain way. There's one last thing that I'd like to say, and that's that we the DAO, interestingly enough, the standard DAO has been voting over and over, like, well, has been talking about for a while about the Indian rupee as the next stable coin. So eventually, you know, backed by crypto. So eventually you won't need these exchanges anyway, because Indian freelancers, and there's many of them, all want to be paid in crypto, because it's just far easier, cheaper, and better to be paid in cryptocurrency than it is as a freelancer. And so this is all coming, whether they like it or not. And the thing is, if they ban the on and off ramps, what happens is that Indians will go directly to stablecoins in that is pegged to the Indian rupee, and they'll stay in that ecosystem. So they won't need to buy the cryptocurrency; they will earn it, whether they invoice in Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency, or they invoice in an Indian rupee pegged stablecoin. At the end of the day, money flows where friction is less, and that's what will happen. And we'll see. We'll see.
It does seem very much like a welcome to the internet moment for the Indian banks. Of course, there's fraud everywhere. It's the internet. Welcome to the internet. And yes, they're going to have to deal with it if they want the advantages of the internet, which we've all seen. It's too bad we can't seem to have China and India at the same time, huh, Josh? We get China back, India goes, India comes over, China leaves. It's this dual personality thing going on there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, it's a matter of time till they both just cave, because, yeah, to block websites is such a pathetic attempt to ban something, because everybody knows that you could just get around. I mean, China famously blocks most websites, and people just use VPNs. It becomes more common that people start to educate themselves on how to get around blocks, and they just use, look, Indians are smart people, as a generalization, and also quite capitalistic and profit driven, like any good human. They want to make profits, and when they see that capital is heading into this industry, and man, imagine the ETF launches with BlackRock, and suddenly trillions potentially head into this industry, and they've just banned it and blocked it, and all these Indians can't get in. Well, what's going to happen? Of course they're going to get in. They're not going to not get in. They'll be specialized. It just basically opens your country up to corruption, because you need people corrupt to get it, skirt around the laws and get people in. They're the same as any sort of prohibition.
I think that's a really good point, Josh. India is mirroring China here. And there's obviously excessive demand for cryptocurrency, similar to a drug war situation where there's demand, people are going to find a way. If they really want to invest in cryptocurrency, they'll go to a black market, they'll go to a less safe market, as we saw with the Silk Road, which allowed large amounts of cannabis to be traded for large amounts of money without violence. They're going to find violence with their cryptocurrency because they're going to be forced to go to the park or the bar or wherever you trade cryptocurrency in India. So hopefully they'll get VPNs first. But we need to move on to the exit question. Competing against the Bitcoin predictor ball, the source of all truth and knowledge, so powerful it makes green screens blink. Victoria Jones, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Well, I said lower last week and I was correct. So as I'm on a winning streak, I'll repeat that prediction. Against the ball, I might add.
Ben Ark, higher or lower?
Higher, baby. It's the new year. It's gonna rocket from now.
Dan Eve.
Yeah, I think we'll be springing up, right? The ETFs are all these rumors about the ETFs, so it's gonna pump before the decision, and then who knows where it is from that going from there.
Josh Agala, more positivity?
Absolutely. Up.
And I'll go higher as well. We're gonna ask the ball here. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? And it says, cannot predict now. Cannot predict now. The ball has taken a vacation, so no answer for you. We have one more story before we start the year-end show. Fast times at FTX High. Fortune Crypto has given us a profile of the members of FTX, the company that just might have taken your life savings from you, and they're treating them like high school kids, describing the romance, a little bit of yearbook action, most likely to become president, homecoming queen, the invisible man, and so forth. But it is a kind of a nice way to get people to pay attention to the various characters and unnamed mystery characters, such as Sam Trabucco, from the FTX scandal. Victoria Jones, what do you think of Fortune Crypto's article? Is it fun, a nice way to teach people, or kind of insulting to people who have probably lost their life savings?
Well, I mean, I was fortunate not to be involved in the FTX scandal, so I can look at it with mild amusement. But obviously, for anyone who does has lost funds, not unusually, they would clearly be mad about it. I mean, the whole thing is sickening, really, and I'm sick of hearing about it. But if I had to hear about it again, it's mildly amusing, so I'll give them that.
Ben Ark, what did you think about the article?
Like you say, I mean, like how many of the core group of the banksters of the 2008 crisis can you name? And well, none of them were indicted, but I mean, like none of them went to jail. But like, how many can you name? And I think this, like you say, it's for me, it was the first time that I actually, thought about a name like Nishad Singh or Gary Wang and knew a little bit more about them, because I think, like Victoria said, I wasn't personally involved, in FTX. I had no funds on there, and I didn't, to be honest, I didn't even know what FTX was until the news broke. That's how detached I am from that world. Although I have got friends who lost some money, so that sucks, and for everyone else who lost money, it sucks as well. But it's very important, like, people remember their names, and their names get pulled through the mud a little bit, because often, with these white collar crimes, there's a slap on the wrist and some token time, which gets appealed, and then they're out of jail before you know it, and they're working for some consultancy or setting up a venture capitalist fund or whatever. Yeah, so it's a good thing that their names get pulled through the mud, because they create a lot of hurt, a lot of loss and sadness for people who lost their money. And yeah, I quite liked it. I'll be honest, I thought it was quite a cool little article.
That is always hard to take, Ben, when someone gets out of prison and gets the same job in the industry they just got punished for breaking the rules in. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And
Well, they end up becoming like a talking head, being paid a fortune on like CNN or something, because they were the ones who committed some fraud at some point, and now they're a go-to consultant for fraud.
They're
So
the
hopefully there's none
experts
of
in
that.
scamming, so we have to go to them. The
Yeah,
scam.
I think
a couple of them
there's
have
not a-
ended up like that, actually, if you read the article. So it's like, I didn't know that.
I mean, like it's I mean, it's just a good thing that some of them are going to face, criminal charges, I think. And like public opinion, like they'll look after their own, because these are rich kids of the elite, and they'll look after them for as long as they can. But then, as we've seen with other people who are part of the elite, like once the public opinion turns, then everyone just piles in, and I think that'll probably happen with this lot.
It's like the FBI and Hannibal Lecter. You'd want to interview him about eating people. He has the information. Dan, Eve, what do you think about FTX and the yearbook article? Certainly none of them are eating people, at least not yet, allegedly.
Well, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, it wasn't involved or impacted, then it's quite funny. But I think from someone, if you were impacted, at least you've got faces of people to hate, right? And so if you did see them in the street, you could be like, "Yo, you twat! Look what you did." I mean, there's it's just been a huge story, isn't it? It's been ongoing throughout the year. We still haven't got the sentencing yet, right? So it's not quite over yet. And obviously, we've only had SBF's trial. There haven't been any of the other trials. Whether there'll be a trial, because if they've just negotiated some sort of plea deal or whatever, there may not be a trial, right? As I understand it, it might just be a straight sentencing. But there's a lot of drama that's still unfolding right now. But I mean, you got to see the funny side of it. There's unfortunately so many of these exchanges that go down, and this one's just been covered in such an insane way compared to all the rest, with the way Sam did these interviews and even dropping himself in it about commingling customer funds. But it is really sad, as everyone's pointed out, the fact that 2007 2008 crisis literally impacted the whole world, and no one could put faces to the people responsible for that, and that's disgraceful. It's literally disgraceful. And yeah, here you go, you've got like an exchange that went down, and fair enough, a lot of people were hurt, but everyone knows his face, and that's what's really pretty bad about this world, and it's going to continue to be that way for a long while. So whilst all the banks are getting these record fines, and still to this year getting record fines, a crypto exchange that gets just brushed under the carpet. No one gets indicted for anything. It's just literally waved away, and here we are, talking about just a bang, another crypto exchange going down. And that's bigger news than a bank that services way more people, doing complete insane things in terms of anti-money laundering themselves, and funding terrorism and blah blah blah. Yeah, Bitcoin is the bad guy. It's a ridiculous situation.
Well, and like Ben said, there were no trials. No one was tried for crashing the economy, although we know who did it and we know what happened. Josh Shigala, what do you think about the FTX high school story? Most likely to be voted 20 years in prison.
Well, it's really like watching a train wreck in slow motion, except it's kind of less charm and more math. But it's really one of these things that just keeps on going and going and going and going. And like Victoria said, I'm kind of tired of hearing from these clowns. Although I think it is kind of important to keep that in the front of the media because of the massive fraud. this persona that Sam had as this math whiz, and that, you know, he's trying to convince everyone that he's the next Einstein with that wacky hair, and instead it's the next Bernie Madoff. But really, if we look at what needs to happen, is there needs to be technical solutions to this sort of thing, because the law isn't enough. You know, the reason why these people are getting jail time and getting all this stuff is because there's already regulation, there's already laws. They just chose to ignore them all. And this is why I really love the DeFi space, because DeFi and people that are building these things as smart contracts, although there's still scams in there, you can at least read the law in terms of code about the rules, read the regulations, the rules that these contracts are going to do and perform, and then make a decision on whether you go with that. Obviously, not everybody's a programmer, but this is the whole thing about free and open source, is that you can read the code, or somebody else can read the code that can code, and discuss that in plain English. And nowadays you can even get AI to read through and explain stuff in plain English and what's going to happen. Obviously, there's smart contracts that can be attacked or wrongly architected. So it's not a panacea at all. In fact, it's very early days, so it's there's probably even more money lost in that space. But you won't get this sort of thing in the future, because it's anti-fragile. So people learn, the market learns what to look out for, and yeah, seeing this sort of thing as a school book, a school end of year book is kind of, it is funny, and it's good to expose some of these other characters, this supporting cast of characters. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Mt. Gox creditors, and you know, I'm one of those guys, so we'll see how that plays out. I think the FTX thing will probably play out very similar, where if you are a creditor at FTX, you'll basically be put into the ultimate hodl strategy, where it's kind of a hodl with a haircut. So you will get more value out eventually, because there is still a lot of crypto left over, depending on how they deal with it. Maybe the state just comes in and takes it all. In Japan, they had a certain legal frameworks set up. So originally, the state was just going to take everything, and then Mark Capellas restructured the collapse to basically enable everybody to get whatever crypto is left out. So if that is the case, if that's what happens, people might end up with more value than they lost in terms of fiat value. Of course, they won't get the same amount of value, vast amounts more that they should have if they kept the crypto. But yeah, let's see what happens. It'll be very fascinating seeing this roll out. I get a feeling the liquidators are going to keep on snacking on this one for years and years and years, and draw it out for as long as possible, because that's what they need to do to get paid.
I
So
think
who's
it's a
the real
good point, Josh, that the at least with DeFi, the market actually punishes the security if it's badly coded, if they lose everyone's money, if they run off with it, the price goes down. We've seen several corporations where they perhaps poison thousands and then continue on as a corporation because they're just too big to fail, or the poisoning happened in another country that no one cares about, allegedly. But let's move on to the year-end spectacular 2023 year in review. It's a great time to push the thumbs up button, or to retweet the tweet, or whatever you got out there, push the like button. Okay, Victoria Jones, are you ready? And everyone, you can play along at home in the chat. You can say what your idea for the category would be, and have a debate back and forth, or maybe in the comments later. Let us know your ideas. Play along in the home game. Victoria Jones, for 2023, what was the best Bitcoin company?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit my nominations for all of the categories kind of follow a theme this year, and I'm going to be a little bit tricky by saying that, you know, I don't really support any companies that are in the traditional financial space because, you know, Bitcoin is the antithesis of that. So I take the word company to mean you know, groups of people working together in order to support Bitcoin's development. And I know LMBit's got a lot of props last year, and I'm not taking anything away from you, Ben. I think you do a terrific job. But on my website, I personally use the BTC Pay server. And I think those guys, you know, the way in which they managed to collaborate in a decentralized way to keep the thing working, I use it on my website, and it's not easy to set up. It really isn't. But at the same time, you know, once you get it working, it's very slick. It provides a brilliant service. You know, we're still in the early days of Bitcoin, and it's companies like that and innovations like that that the world needs. And so they get my vote this year, even though they've been around for a while.
Ben Ark, best Bitcoin company.
I'm going to be a bit of an egotist, and it's actually because like I don't get out much, so I don't actually know any other companies. I'm going to pick two. So I'm going to have to pick LMBits because the project's just done so much this year, and we have a for-profit arm which is rolled out the software as a service, so you can go to lmbits.com and spin up LMBits like you could if you go to like wordpress.com, and that was quite an undertaking to kind of put in this whole Kubernetes cluster thing, which was pretty hard. And then there's all the shop stuff as well, which we sell, where we sell a lot of the hardware, and it helps build some momentum on some of the hardware projects and get the hardware into people's hands. So yeah, I mean, I've been single-minded. That's been the thing I've been working on most of the year. So no, that's for me. That's the been the most insane thing to see progress. And like, I think at the beginning of the year we were like, let's by the end of this year just hopefully get to a point where it's out of beta and into production, and people can use it in production, because so many of these pieces of software we use are just perpetually in beta. We don't want that. We want it to be like audited and have some assurance that it's safe and it doesn't have bugs. The core software at least, and we've got it to that point, and we've got this incredible extension framework. So I won't run on too much about LMBits, but it's ace. The other company I want to give props to is Blockstream, man, because I mean, like, with all the scaling stuff, with all the fees, the high fees, I think for a lot of people, like, they've started using Liquid as a kind of bridge, pushing liquidity around and in and out of Lightning. We have with our node, and there's been times where it saved our node and our demo server, being able to have Liquid there as that extra resource. So I'm really happy for Blockstream that, you know, that there's a really good video and it's like Adam Back in the war room, and he gets this memo that more than 4 people are using Liquid finally, and it's this kind of this trailer for Liquid. So I know somehow it's become controversial, and people are like, oh, Liquid's not Bitcoin, blah blah blah. But it's a really good resource which is decentralized enough for us in the ways in which we use Bitcoin, and with our node for us to just like push channel liquidity around, and it's very cheap as well, which is great. And DNI, who works on LMBits, he's heavily involved in Bolts, which is part of the Liquid Federation. So we have some crossover there. But yeah, man, Blockstream, props to him. Well done to him for building something which was a slow burner and wasn't all sexy. But then when we needed it, we really needed it. Like, thank God they were building something in the background which we could rely upon to keep our Lightning nodes, our channels balanced. So yeah, thank you.
Really, Ben? More than 4 people using the Liquid network. Amazing. Dan Eve, best Bitcoin company 2023.
I think Elements is by default because I just think it's a great bit of software with all the add-ons. Like, it's like new add-ons every week, so that's kind of a default. But in terms of one that I use quite frequently, I really like Electrum. Like I use it for just monitoring specific Bitcoin addresses. So I've got loads of different addresses that are mine. I just like snooping, or not snooping. That's a bad word, but just monitoring. You're like a nosy neighbor poking their nose through the curtains and just having a peep at these things here and there. So I think an Electrum's really good. It's just a really nice UI, really simple and easy to use. And then there's like another service that I've been using a lot recently is Satsback, which is like it's like a lolly. I heard some bad reviews about lolly, so I just started using Satsback, and that's pretty cool. I've replaced. I used to use Quidco or Top Cashback or whatever it was in the UK we use. So now I use a Satsback. But yeah, so I think it's a tie between Electrum and Satsback for me for Bitcoin software. Bitcoin company.
Josh Agala, best Bitcoin company 2023.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch to choose from. Obviously, LM Bits is fantastic, and people. I've talked about LM Bits to a lot of people, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's too confusing. There's so many parts." And then when they see the website and they see the demos and stuff, they're like, "Oh, this is fantastic. This is so easy." So yeah, definitely go and check it out. And I'm gonna have to shout out Voltora as well because it's never been hacked in this whole time of being. It's still around since 2015. It's the Bitcoin physical gold exchange, but it's I could throw micro strategies in there and just in terms of like trying to be a little bit out of the box thinking purely because it's a company that's got a lot of eyes on it. It's been around since the .com bubble. It's a long running company, and they switched to being a kind of an ETF where they're just buying Bitcoin. So I think it's fascinating to see a company like MicroStrategy, which is a huge company, just making it their business model just to buy Bitcoin. It's very fascinating.
All right, Victoria Jones, are you ready with the envelope? The envelope, please.
Ooh.
Here it is. It's been sealed in a jar on a desk in Funkin Wagnall's porch for over the last 2 weeks, hermetically sealed. That's right. Here it is. Karnak the Magnificent has 3 wheels, dances in the rain. We open, go. That's how you have to open it. And the winner is Best Bitcoin Company 2023, MicroStrategy, with honorable mention for Naive Bukali. Yes, their strategy was small, and we made fun of them many times for mirroring the Pirate at 40 Bitcoin campaign from the old days. Just let us buy Bitcoin for you and hold it, and the price of our stock will go up. Well, it turns out the price of MicroStrategy stock did go up. Despite the simplicity of their small strategy, it's almost what I would do if I had a Bitcoin company. Just buy Bitcoin and sit on it. In addition to that, Michael Saylor's been out there with the talking about Bitcoin on all the news, talking to all the companies, all the advocacy that he's done. MicroStrategy is the Bitcoin company of the year 2023. Moving on, worst Bitcoin company, Ben Ark. Who is the worst Bitcoin company 2023?
MicroStrategy. No, I didn't have one, so I just wanted to chuck it in there. But yeah, I did because I really couldn't think of a bad Bitcoin. That sounds pathetic, but a bad Bitcoin company. But no, I'm just gonna say MicroStrategy is the worst one because it's all a pump and dump. He's the world's biggest and most successful pump and dumper, and one day he will dump on us. I don't mean that, by the way, MicroStrategy, but yeah.
Allegedly.
Damn, that's going to be taken out of context at some point.
Dan Eve, worst Bitcoin company.
Oh, I couldn't pick one. I just most companies that are working on Bitcoin, are doing something useful. I mean, obviously, there's people that have Bitcoin and other shit coins and their shitcoin casinos, and you can lump those in. But there's no specific like Bitcoin company I think that really is that bad. I mean, you could go back to in fact, okay, so Victoria said so. Best Bitcoin company is BTC Pay Server. So I'm going to say for BitPay is the worst Bitcoin company because I still don't forgive them for the 2017.
Forever hated, poor BitPay.
Do they still
forever
exist?
hated.
BitPay,
I think
BitPay's
they
still a
do,
thing.
yeah. And they're like they're still like picking up some big customers as well.
They did some good shit back in the day, man.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did.
They did.
They were innovators back in the day.
I went to one of their parties. They were giving away the mini bar. That's not bad. Josh Shigala, worst Bitcoin company 2023.
Well, some would say that, well, I said before MicroStrategies, and I could put them in the worst as well, quite easily because of the same reason Ben had. But I would also add that they have vast amounts of debt and are highly leveraged at the same time. And that could have turned out extremely bad for them because they had these long positions. And as the price was going down, it only needed to drop another like few $100. And it could have been lights out for the company with a massive margin call. So they're just lucky that that didn't happen. And because that didn't happen, they could now go on to be one of the most valuable companies in the world. Because if now we go on to the next moon run, it's going to be huge for them. So while I don't like that sort of business of sort of gambling with funds like that, specifically because it's is MicroStrategy still publicly traded? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I don't know. That puts that in. The thing is, there's other companies that obviously FTX is a big one for this year. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
I think Josh can see inside this envelope. There's something going on here. But
Oh, really?
yeah, MicroStrategies for the up and the down. I could see that, but at the same time, I mean, he's at least with he said he would invest your money in Bitcoin. Whereas with Sam, we had no idea where the money was being invested. Victoria Jones, worst Bitcoin company. We've heard a lot of the same answers from best Bitcoin company here.
BlackRock. I
Ooh.
know everyone's excited about the ETF, but to me, it's just the antithesis of what Bitcoin is meant to be. So, you
Yeah.
know, and I think we should call it out more often than we do. I think there's a lot of hype about it pumping the price, but there's also a lot of nefarious activity that goes on with these companies, and Larry Fink is not our friend.
The enemy of our enemy is our enemy. And the worst Bitcoin company, Josh had it. It's FTX. How could it be anything else? They took their customers' money. They had the Super Bowl commercials. They had Larry David, Tom Brady, Giselle Bundren, all telling you to buy cryptocurrency. Tom Brady tried to melt the bear market, the winter cold of crypto with a flamethrower for you because of FTX and allegedly SBF taking all of the customers' money and spending it on whatever he wanted, which seemed like a lot of fun for him, allegedly.
Didn't the
Moving
company collapse
on.
in 2022 though?
They're still the worst Bitcoin company of the year. They're awful.
Failing.
Awful. What's the most defining moment? Most defining moment of 2023? Dan Eve, most defining moment.
Well, I've picked maybe quite an abstract one, which was the fact that there's going to be a bit of a theme in my answers here, but like so I think when it was the first time since 2017 that the mining fees were more than the block reward, because of the ordinals hype, and it kicked off that huge conversation again about how the fee subsidy is going to keep Bitcoin going when the halvening kicks in or keeps on kicking in. And we're so close to it now. We're like what four months away from the halvening, And yeah, I just thought it's quite a big moment actually. So with all the fuss going on about block size debates coming back again, and it brought back that debate of how is Bitcoin's security model going to work with the block rewards reducing, and the ordinals are definitely consuming quite a lot of block space. And there's all the drama about the censoring of these transactions as well, along that came with that. So I think that was quite a big moment in this year.
Josh Hagala, most defining moment 2023.
I think the fact that this ETF is getting closer is kind of defining the talking points, definitely, in terms of the mainstream side of things. It's what's really driving, a lot of these conversations. But on a technical front, I think the ordinals are bringing back the discussion of on-chain spam and what that means for, but what does on-chain spam mean, and people getting back into the camps of, no, it's if you pay for a transaction, it's legit, you've paid for the transaction, that's the whole point. Famously, we have Adam Back's invention of the stamps for email, where you pay a little bit of money to get an email through, and then it's not spam, due to the fact that spam is only available if something is totally free. And so this conversation is fascinating, and I think it is defining, because people are jumping into camps. It's either the ordinal space is either a bug that needs to be fixed, which is a definition, a defining moment, or it's not spam. It's part of the blockchain now. It's part of Bitcoin, and that's also then a definition and a defining moment. So that's my complex answer.
Victoria Jones, most defining moment 2023.
I think CZ being kicked out of Binance is quite a defining moment. Not because I think that Binance is necessarily has no case to answer, but I think it was definitely set up as what they did very successfully was make crypto accessible to almost everyone around the world. I recently watched a Peter McCormack interview where he mentioned that almost he does interviews all around the world, and wherever he goes, anywhere in the world, everyone's heard of Binance. The locals are using Binance, and of course, one of the things that Binance was criticized for was giving access to people who the US didn't want having access. Now, there are a lot of talking points around that, in terms of, we want to make Bitcoin accessible to everybody. We want everyone to have access to this decentralized finance. And for all its faults, Binance was giving people access to that. And of course, the US coming in and kicking him out and introducing their own jurisdiction, I think it's the beginning of the end. And just the fact that, we've already talked about the fact that these banks are now restricting access for people to transfer their money. I think that could be more of a defining moment than we realize yet. And quite a worrying one, actually. I think there was a lot to be said for what CZ was trying to achieve, and I am actually sorry that he's not there anymore. I'm not saying that Binance wasn't doing. I know there were lots of issues with spoofing and people feeling like their trades weren't right, but in terms of access and that being there for everyone, I know we want Bitcoin to work that way anyway without needing the exchanges, but until we get to that point, I think Binance had a really important role, and I think CZ was key to that. So yeah, that was my thoughts on defining moment.
Ben Ark, most defining moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree very much with Josh that I think the ordinal stuff was really quite huge for the Bitcoin space. And I think that was like January, February when that launched. It was just had such an impact. And again, like Dan said with the fee stuff, it's the fees being so high because of ordinals. It's had such a huge impact on the Bitcoin ecosystem. But I'm going to say Nostr. It was like you. I'm conflating that December of 2022 into 2023, which is when Jack Dorsey first picked up on Nostr and then gave that grant to FitJeff. But then there was the event. There was Nostr. Nostra Rica in March. That was huge, like pulling all these people together, all these Nostra bitches, all these Nostra freaks together, and then having them like share ideas in the meet space. So many great projects flew off from there. And it's Nostra isn't Bitcoin, but I mean it just goes together so well, like bread and butter. And things like the Lightning Network, which is implemented through Zaps, which could be improved, but you know it's cool. People are like experiencing a digitally native payment, and there's no QR code, which is like one of the sticking points of Lightning. Is it's kind of fiddly with the QR code thing. You got to scan the QR code, pay the QR code, and then you have solutions like Albi where you can pay in browser, but it's still kind of fiddly. Whereas when you're using like a social network and you're sending zaps to people, it feels just very like natural. And there's a whole bunch of services I know which are being built on that concept of just being able to click and or have browsers pay, or you know like not having to get your phone out and scan QR codes because you're logged in using some of your Nostr keys. And that's very exciting and interesting. And I think as well, like Nostr itself, although it borrowed a lot of talent from the Bitcoin ecosystem, it pulled in a hell of a lot of like new developers who weren't Bitcoiners, but they saw Bitcoin being used in this digitally native way. And it's very intuitive and it makes sense. And it's like, well, yeah, why? Nothing else makes sense to send something like Zaps than something like Bitcoin, and the Lightning Network and all the stuff which sits behind Zaps as well. So for me, Nostr was probably the most defining moment, like seeing that protocol, which you know we first covered on World Crypto Network. It was like the first place in the world where it was actually spoken about. Nostr was spoken about on a YouTube stream, and we'll have to dig that out one day and like watch it or something and like listen to us talking naively about this new thing, not knowing that someone like Jack Dorsey would get involved. And it was just a momentous as well to like have someone like Jack Dorsey, you know, using a billionaire, using it to kick another billionaire in the balls, Elon Musk, because Elon Musk sacked a bunch of his mates basically. And then you have people like Edward Snowden coming in, and you know, and a bunch of people who are interested in freedom of speech and freedom of speech platforms, and then seeing Bitcoin there natively built into these clients is very special. And I very much look forward to 2024. I think it's going to be a very exciting time for Nostr, and Nostr being used in a whole range of other applications. I don't want to go on about LM-bits too much, but we did also roll out the Nostr market thing, which again, like Diagon Alley, was the kind of one of the things which helped influence creation of Nostr. Again, also first covered here in World Crypto Network. And what else have we got? Yeah, we just all the things which are being built out on Nostr, and the different ways, this new paradigm shift of having, you know, a dumb server and smart clients where you're empowering the users, is powerful across a whole range of applications, and I look forward to those applications being explored in 2024, and them all having like this crazy, you know, digitally native currency, which we can send microtransactions through, built in natively. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we've actually started building something like as a, you know, proof of concept, but just like. So I remember speaking to people about VR and having, you know, Lightning payments in VR, and I was like, well, how are you going to scan the QR code? You know, you're in the casino and you got to, because I got the VR headset on. Whereas I think Nostr could fix a lot of those things, and we could see, you know, those payments happening in VR space. So yeah, we got some experiments around that. That's pretty cool. And yeah, anyway, 2024 is going to be momentous for Bitcoin and Nostr.
The most defining moment 2023, BlackRock ETF interest, $9.42 trillion of assets under management. They like us. They really like us. Suddenly, Bitcoin has a friend, a big friend, who will get us an ETF in January. Most defining
Well, hang on.
moment.
I didn't get to say, and I guessed it as well. Somehow, I don't know. I swear I can't see through these things. But I was going to say the most defining. Oh, hang on. Was this surprising? Was this the surprising one?
That was most
Had the
defining
envelope.
moment, Josh. Are you ready for surprise?
Oh, I
'Cause
did get to.
you're first for surprise. The next category to Josh's surprise is biggest surprise. Josh, what's the biggest surprise of 2023?
The biggest surprise for me really was that December 6th, 2023, Jamie Dimon comes out and says, for up to me, I'd shut Bitcoin down. December 29th rolls along. JP Morgan is now, recognized as an authorized participant in the BlackRock ETFs. Like that to me, we all know that Jamie Dimon is a financial criminal, allegedly, and so it makes it's definitely not that surprising in that sense, because the guy knows how to manipulate the market. He knows that if you bag Bitcoin, you basically can pick up cheap Bitcoin. So this is again one of his ways of getting cheap Bitcoin, I guess, for his ETF or whatever, is just bag on it. So as we lead into this ETF moment happening, expect a lot more FUD coming from the people that are actually sponsoring the ETF because they want to buy up cheap.
Well, as they said in Star Trek 6, only Nixon could go to China. Victoria Jones, what's the biggest surprise of 2023?
Well, I was thinking about this, and the ETF doesn't surprise me because we've been talking about that since 2017. CZ didn't surprise, although I thought it was a defining moment, it didn't surprise me because people have been talking about Binance. Barry Silbert resigning surprised me because he's been he's kind of been a fixture. That was like the first whatever you call it on Bitcoin, where people could actually trade in the stock market with Bitcoin. So it was an innovation at the time. I know there's been a lot of debate about, the fees being too high. And obviously the discount started off at 40% at the beginning of the year. It's now reduced to 5%. But in spite of everything, he has had the advantage by setting up that company and keeping it going. And so for him to suddenly go straight after CZ, just as the banks are all starting to get nervous about crypto, I don't know, my spidey senses, something's up. So yeah.
Ben Ark, biggest surprise.
Sorry, I lost my mute button. Biggest surprise of 2023. I would say it's probably the FTX collapse and how it didn't really pull the Bitcoin price down that much. Because historically, when we've had like big exchanges to go down, they've really like pulled the price down with them, and it shows that it would be hard to really like for one entity to crash and then also pull the Bitcoin price down. And it wasn't really a surprise because we all knew that, but I'm just struggling to find a surprise in something we were surprised about, because obviously we're great predicting everything on this show, so nothing's a surprise. But I think it was that. I think it was the for me, I felt like I was happily surprised that bedrock of extreme hodlers who aren't going to let go of their Bitcoin held strong, and we did have blood in the streets at the beginning of the year. It was kind of blood in the streets, like perfect storm of FUD happening in our little world, and the Bitcoin price didn't seem to give a fuck. So the honey badger's back, and it's roided up and it's ready for 2024. It's going to eat all the other markets.
As Trace Mayer used to say, the hodlers of last resort, and they held through. Dan, Eve, what's the biggest surprise 2023?
Well, I think although the ETFs have been on the cards for a while, BlackRock jumping in was a surprise for me because it was just like the biggest, right? It was like the whale of whales. But also agree with Victoria about Barry Silbert, and maybe it's because all of these, these existing leaders, they're slowly trying to escape because they know that like the traditionals are going to be hunting for them, right? Well, it's hunting season for the leaders of these existing exchanges. Because Kraken, I can't remember his name now, but he stepped down, didn't he, as well? So I'm surprised
Yep,
that
Jesse Powell from Kraken has stepped down. Yep.
yeah, so it does seem like there's a slew of people leaving, and maybe that is because they just don't want the hassle of the giants stepping in and what the giants can actually do because of their paid pockets. And I'd be worried, right, if I was the leader of a big crypto company and you've got you're stepping on the feet of BlackRock and Fidelity and all these companies. You're going to have to either obey them or just leave your company quietly and not have to back down in that particular way. So yeah, I'd be worried if I was a big crypto company leader. I'm surprised that Brian Armstrong's still there, to be fair, with all these other people leaving, especially with these fights with the regulators happening all the time.
And worried they should be, because the biggest surprise of 2023, SBF and CZ convicted. Sure, maybe one of them was a shoe-in, but to see them both go, although CZ's company does live on and he made billions. Fair trade-off so far, although he may get jail time. Moving on, the next category, best new offering.
What about
Victoria
Josh?
Jones. Oh, we did Josh. He started with Josh. Victoria Jones, what's the best new offering of 2023?
Noster. I think Noster's the best new offering. It took me a while to kind of figure out what it was, and I had to go to conferences and hear Ben talk about it a couple of times before I actually dived in and got my own Noster account. But I think the principles of it, especially, I think decentralized money is a fantastic innovation. We also need a decentralized internet. One of the newsletters I did a while ago, I investigated what actually happened with the South Sea bubble, which was something that happened soon after the Bank of England was instituted. And one of the things that happened at the same time was the Mississippi bubble. And in conversations with friends, one of the things I pointed out was the reason why France became a complete basket case after that was because they were trying to run the Mississippi Company and the Bank of France at the same time. The reason why England survived was because they kept them separated. So when the South Sea bubble collapsed, the Bank of England was able to step in and take on that debt. And so, we need different pillars. You don't have a house that's held up just by one pillar. We need other innovations that will support the infrastructure. If we're relying on Bitcoin and we haven't got a decentralized internet, what do we do if the internet goes down? And so obviously, that's a work in progress, but Noster is almost like the seeds of that they've managed to get working. And clearly there've been some big names who've really jumped on board and understood this and adopted it. I mean, I have to say I'm still using Twitter more than I use Noster, basically because there's a larger audience there, but I can definitely see the potential of it. And from that perspective, I think it's really essential service, and good job to all those people who helped build it.
Ben Ark, what's the best new offering of 2023?
Oh, I didn't have one, but I think I'm gonna say Noster again. And yeah, Victoria's totally right. One of the coolest things about Noster and why anything which comes after something like Twitter or those legacy platforms, the most powerful thing about those legacy platforms is their network effect of users. And whenever you create a new platform, you have to pull in all those new users onto your Mastodon server, whatever. Whereas with Noster, because all these users are interoperable across clients, I think it's 400,000 daily, 400,000 active users now. As that user base grows, then it's a case of, it's a bit like it's the Trojan, where just as free and open source is the Trojan, and just as Bitcoin's the Trojan, and they have to let it in. Then Noster will be the Trojan in that, how do you get an extra X million users? Well, you just implement Noster into your whatever platform, and then those legacy social media platforms will implement Noster. But yeah, whatever comes next needs the power of that network effect by having interoperable users across clients, and that's what Noster has. And I can't really think of a better way of doing it than just using public key crypto. Public key crypto is incredible. So yeah, that was a good excuse to have a little Noster rant. Anyway, yeah, Noster.
Dan Eve, best new offering of 2023.
Oh well, I think I think it would be wrong if I didn't say Nostr, right? Because no, I think it's an incredible bit of technology, and it's decentralizing social media, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. We've only, like with Bitcoin, we've only begun to see the, you know, the amazing use cases that Bitcoin has in the early days. Sorry, and then we're seeing that with Nostr now. So there's so many amazing services that are growing. I did hear that isn't Darmus shutting down, or the guy
Yeah, with Damus, Will, he's and I spoke to him about this in Costa Rica. His biggest problem is that, like, when you run a free and open source project, at some point you need to give other people commit access, and then and merge rights. And then when you do that, you just say, well, you got to have like 3 people like sign something off before it gets merged in. Whereas Will didn't do that. So every single commit which was PR'd in, he had to review himself and then merge it in himself. And it was just a nightmare. So he's just getting everything was all backed up. And then it meant that, like, often when people would complain about something to do with Gnostic, it was quite often something related to something in Damus which hadn't been merged in yet. So it's a little bit more slow to move than some of the other projects, and I think that's related to the Damus thing. But it's sad because it's a nice looking platform. But before he shuts it down, I hope he just gives a bunch of people in that, because there's a great community around it, a bunch of those people some more access, more merge rights.
because he's gonna pass it on, right, rather than just shut it down altogether. Is it just going to be a case
I
of?
imagine so. I mean, it's a free and open source project, so hopefully someone, if he doesn't want to maintain it, someone else will maintain it and then run it probably more how like a free and open source project should be run.
Nice, indeed.
Josh Shigala, best new offering.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say Nostar as well, but I'd also say the standard, what we're creating to BP for Bitcoin and crypto in general, having stable currency that's backed by crypto, that's backed by Bitcoin or wrapped Bitcoin in our case, is really important. It's really important, but Nostar is also extremely important, and we can see now that really every single department is going after Elon Musk's Twitter because he's trying to make it as free speech as possible. But the establishment doesn't like when you criticize them, or when there's and they'll just call it misinformation or disinformation, whatever they want to do, whatever they want to call it. And we will see the destruction of X because the powers don't like free flow of discussion and information. They like to control the narrative. So having something like Nostr as a backup is really good, because you do have obviously different doors you can go through, but they become echo chambers. Just so you can go to Telegram, but also Telegram there, or Rumble, or whatever you want to choose. Whoever says that they are more free speech. The problem is that those are centrally controlled, and it's only a matter of time till those also get banned and destroyed. If we do go down a full-on tyrannical global thing, then anyone that offers any freedom, like ultimate freedom of speech in the free market of ideas, no matter how bad these ideas are, they should be able to be challenged in a debate. And so Nostr is a really important part of that, because it's the only true decentralized variant of a micro blogging mechanism. So yeah, I think it's a very important technology, and I'm glad to be an early participant. Obviously, I don't. For those that follow my handle, it's not like I chat on there all the time, and I should more. But like Victoria said, it's hard when. Actually, that's one thing that they could do more, is try to focus on engagement. It's really like, I'll tweet like crazy on there, and I just literally will not get one message back or one like or anything. So that's really frustrating. You sort of feel like you're farting into a tornado, and you know, no one will smell it or hear it. It'll just go past. So So I think that's something that Nosto could work on is focusing on obviously decentralization first, but then engagement second. And some would say this is why TikTok, I don't use TikTok, but why TikTok became so popular is because they really put a focus on engagement. When you're a new user, you get on there and you instantly have a massive, you put some video and they make it go viral for you. And so you feel like, oh, this warm welcome of this community. And I think that's something that Nosto could really focus on.
I've got to. So if I were to pull a rabbit out of a hat, as it were, I would also say that the best new offering is the standard as well, because I used it, and I think it's a really good service. Like and it's just so. If they had this in like 2017 and 2013 or whatever, like in the other bear markets, I wouldn't have to sell stuff off. I could have just literally took a loan out against my Bitcoin or my Ethereum or whatever, and not had to sell it. And then you don't even have to pay tax because you're not selling it, you're just taking a loan out against it. So I think it's incredible, really, really good service. And yeah, I think I'd definitely recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, same,
Thanks,
same,
man.
definitely.
Yeah, and on
Oh,
that note, Binance has just sent round an email saying that UK users won't be able to take out loans on their crypto anymore. So
Yes,
you might be
That's
might be
mainly the
cornering the
standard.
market. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like it was something which was being built for a while, and that was because you were doing it properly and you were like getting audited and you were really responsible with and appreciating that this is people's money at stake. I mean, obviously, this is from running Voltoro. You're very professional in the work you do, but no, the standard's incredible, and I think it's gonna really be very useful in 2024 across the board.
Thank you very much, guys. Actually, there's an audit going on right now. So if you're a white hat or you love to hack around in smart contracts, head over to codehawks.com. There's bounties galore going for, and it's a competitive audit. So thousands of attackers are attacking our smart contracts right now as we speak. And there's, we're trying to find holes.
Very good, Josh. However, the best new offering of 2023, Ordinals, NFTs on Bitcoin. Who would have thought of that? It's a vindication for the everything comes back to Bitcoin belief. Back when we were making curio cards, we couldn't do NFTs on Bitcoin. It was not technically possible. Now it is. Privacy coins next. Moving on to best technical innovation. Ben Ark, best technical innovation of 2023.
Oh man, God, I should have been more prepared. I'm so sorry. Can I say Nostr IoT? Because I haven't really done anything on it, and I want to make some videos for it. But I think Nostr IoT, just because I've got some devices now in my house, and I can just turn them on and off without. Well, this has really got anything to do with Bitcoin, so no, I shouldn't say that. The standard IO, like it launched 2023.
Dan Eve, best technical innovation.
Well, I'm split between the standard and ordinals, because I just think it's everyone was complaining about the with NFTs on Ethereum that they're not actually on chain, and ordinals came along and they brought NFTs to Bitcoin and on chain, and there's no third party that's referenced. It's literally your JPEG is inscribed, which obviously pisses a lot of people off, and it's spam. And this, that, and the other, but it's not. I mean, there's brought back the discussion, and someone, I can't remember who it was, who said that it's not spam. It's a financial transaction. If you're inscribing an asset, that's there's a financial transaction associated with it. You're paying for it, number one, and also it's a financial transaction. You're selling that or buying that for an amount. So it's interesting. There's a lot of twos, fours and against. So we'll see if this is is it going to be the new like block size war, like the ordinals war, and if they actually kind of manage to change the code to weed them out somehow. There's obviously a lot of debates with ocean mining and how that's was censoring transactions, but now it's not censoring transactions from what I gather. They kind of rolled back. So yeah, it's going to be a big thing for 2024 as well, I think, especially when the halvening kicks in. And we've got the fee debate.
Josh Shigala, best technical innovation.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's really important is some of the cryptography that's happening in 2023, because we are heading into a quantum world, quantum computing world pretty soon. So quantum resistance cryptography is I think a really important innovation. Right now, there is a lot of people storing vast troves of hacked data that that basically they're waiting for quantum computing to be available so they can crack it in the future. So if you do use the same password everywhere and stuff, start becoming better at that, because it's coming and it's coming fast. The second thing I would say is some of the layer 2 stuff. Obviously, LM Bits is building on um, the layer 2 of Bitcoin, which is extraordinarily important to make Lightning actually usable. Because you can say, oh, we've got the Lightning Network now, but if you don't have the tools that LM Bits builds, then it becomes basically pointless. And this goes for all of the stuff happening over on Ethereum as well, is that layer twos are this scaling solution. They cannot, blockchains cannot scale by themselves, because the humans have an unstoppable yearn for data and for doing stuff. And people, the bigger your blocks are, the more stuff will just be shoved into them. And eventually you'll have terabyte blocks that cannot propagate across the network. So you need to layer it out. That's 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 the unfortunate truth. And we have many, many minds agreeing with that, great minds. So the layer 2 scaling solutions and the competition in that space is now heating up vastly, which is really great to see. We saw in 2019 and 20 and stuff where everyone had their new layer 1, the Ethereum killer or the Bitcoin killer. But the fact that what I'm seeing now over 2023 is that all of these so-called Ethereum killers are actually just becoming L2s of Ethereum, where or they're like pivoting to say, hey, we're going to anchor all the transactions or roll up into Ethereum or something like that. So layer twos are an extraordinarily important part of the crypto sphere. They're an important part of Bitcoin. And we can see it in Ethereum, the ETH world. People don't fight about that. They just realize that that is how it's going to go. And I think it's bouncing back to the Bitcoin space, where people realize that L2s are the way to go. You cannot just do everything on one chain because of that centralization factor. So yeah, layer twos, I think, is a huge, big step forward.
You know what they say, if you can't kill him with kindness, kill him with a layer 2. Victoria Jones, what's the best technical innovation of 2023?
Yeah, I had the Lightning Network as well, actually. I know there are issues with the Lightning Network, and it still requires a lot of work. The thing I would say that I've really noticed this year is the development with Lightning wallets. I think there have been issues with some of the Lightning wallets being custodial, and so some of them have had to come up with self-custodial solutions, and some of them have stepped up. And I noticed they're becoming much more reliable and easier to use. Some of them, certainly, I found that in my own work. I've been able to put Lightning paywalls on my website for my newsletters, and I've been able to recommend, a Lightning wallet to use. I mean, I'm quite keen to do educational videos for people, but I think in many respects a lot of the technology of Bitcoin is still really early. We've got a long way to go to kind of make it user friendly. And it's hard to explain, if I think about trying to explain it to my mother, for example, people who it's really hard to adopt, you need to get to the stage where they're kind of going to go, yeah, I can do this, no problem. And we're a long way from that yet. But I do applaud the development that's worked so hard. It's not going to happen overnight, but I can definitely see progress being made.
And the best technical innovation of 2023 is Nostar, for all the reasons you guys mentioned. I just had it for a different category, allowing people to send messages freely throughout the internet, notes and other stuff, relays. Nostar is the best technical innovation of 2023. Moving on, Dan Eve, what is the worst technical innovation? The other side of the coin, the worst technical innovation of
Well, I had
2023.
exactly the same thing as I had for best, which is that aside from the standard, because that's only in the best, the ordinals and BRC20s, because they're both the best and the worst with the like what it's kind of doing to the community, because it's it's splintering the community even further. And I don't know, I kind of like it when everyone just kind of works together and tries to root around problems and work things out. But the ordinals and BRC20s just seems the whole discussion just seems to get people really angry and all mean to each other and saying mean things, rather than just trying to like get over an obstacle and like work around it and build technology that's gonna, it just kind of, I don't know, it brought out a lot of bad stuff in the Bitcoin community, which could just be like left under the hood, really. And I think I've mentioned this before, like a while back, about how like like in a company when there's technical decisions being made, there's you don't see the technical decision, you don't see the meeting that's happening with the technicians throwing like cups at each other across the table and shouting which route to take and why they should adopt this side of technology and what do this and which big code they're not going to use, and all these arguments. And you see that in Bitcoin very, very much. And that kind of puts people off and makes it almost look like, rather than when they're arguing and all these ad hominem attacks and going down that route, it kind of detracts away from the goodness of the technology and what it can do and what it can achieve. And I just think that kind of puts people off. They're like, well, they see the people arguing and they're like, well, obviously Bitcoin's bad because no one can decide on this, that, and the other. Whereas they can't just go, right, okay, well, you want to do this, you want to do this. Let's see if we can find a happy medium. Will this technology support this? What are the positives? What are the negatives? So yeah, I think it's both the best and worst technical innovation of 2023, the ordinals and BRC20s. And the inscriptions, I suppose, is the overarching thing, right?
Josh Agala, worst technical innovation of 2023.
It's hard because technical innovations are, it's a hard one to say worst, because sometimes they start off really bad because it's the first implementation and then it becomes better over time. For instance, I just mentioned quantum computing resistance. So we've seen new cryptography based around quantum computing resistance, but those have also been attacked and cracked. So they're bad at the same time, but they're heading in the noble direction, and that direction is on an exponential curve. So it'll come faster than we know, than most think. And so yeah, I don't think there's really such thing as bad technical innovation, because it is innovation. It's discovery, and part of discovery, when you send rockets to the moon, some explode, and that's just part of it. The astronauts that go up might die, and that's just horrible, but it's part of technical innovation. You have horrible things happen, but it's in it for a noble cause.
Victoria Jones, worst technical innovation.
Yeah, I have to go with ordinals as well. I mean, honestly, really, we need, Bitcoin is like the best form of money the world's ever had invented, and we have to soil it with that rubbish. But anyway, bearing in mind all the stuff about technical innovations, leave it to the Ethereum guys, but whatever. I won't, I know some of you love it, so I won't harp on about it.
Ben Ark, what's the worst technical innovation of 2023?
It's got to be. I mean, I'm gonna have to say ordinals because I just want to talk about it. But I'm a bit like Dan. It's like a hate love hate kind of relationship, in that it is sad seeing people arguing about ordinals. But for me, I mean, like, the sad reality is that people don't work on scaling Bitcoin until it's critical. And we have these high fee environments, and ordinals are given us a high fee environment. And then, there's some solutions like Ocean where they're like, okay, we're going to censor transactions, which is just insane. And a very bad business model for a miner who's going to get fees from the ordinals, which is probably why they've retracted that idea. But yeah, no, or the other solution is, like I said before, like bolts and these liquid swaps and whatever else we've been using to try and kind of like bridge the different layers together. And I think there's so much more work to be done there, like liquid on Lightning. It's all like 5% of its potential. So we have so much more work to do in those areas. And now the work will be done to make those layers more interoperable so we can have actual proper off-layer scaling. You don't want all your transactions on chain. This is a decision we made with with SegWit. We want like you can't have the whole world using Bitcoin on chain. We've been spoiled by these low fee environments where we're able to buy trivial things with Bitcoin on chain, but it's like it really is like digital gold. And if you look at gold, when people first found those shiny gold rocks on the ground, and they would exchange them, I'll give you a bit of this big shiny rock, and you give me that house over there. And then the concept of doing that, a few thousand years later was insane. That I would give you a big, massive lump of gold for that house over there. And then we had coinage, and then you have all these commodity use cases of gold. And the more commodity use cases you have for anything you're using as money, the more stable it is. So it's quite important that Bitcoin is explored in all these different and interesting ways. And I know it's a bit of a hack, the ordinal thing, and some people feel it's graffiti, and probably I should say it's graffiti as well, because I picked it for the worst technical innovation. But I do like the fact that it's kind of pushed those fees up, and people are now actually working on scaling. And then I don't know, man. Like I'm kind of very much on the fence and with the ordinal stuff, and some of the people involved in the ordinal world are cool people. Like I like them, and I know a bunch of Bitcoiners who are builders, and they don't really care about these ordinals and whatever. But I certainly don't think scaling Bitcoin is censoring transactions and dictating what you can use your Bitcoin transaction for. It's like, sometimes we have a lot of transactions which are trading volume, and you can see where those transactions are coming from, and they're coming from exchanged wallets. Well, maybe we should censor those as well, because they're filling those blocks, man, and we don't want traders. We just want holders. That's the only use case for Bitcoin, is store of value. We don't want them to do it for speculation. So then we start censoring those transactions as well. So it's a slippery slope, man. And it's also showing like the regulators and the governments of this world. I'm glad that the censoring of transactions has failed utterly with Ocean, but it doesn't set a good example to the rest of the world. All these regulators are looking and think, oh, we can censor transactions, nice, cool. But yeah, no. So ordinals is my choice for worst technical innovation, but I kind of like them in a sort of perverse way.
Again, it's as if you could see through this envelope. The worst technical innovation of 2023 is the attempt to ban ordinals. It's reactionary, it's unfriendly, it's censorship. It's not what we're all about. If they're paying for the block space, they're paying for the block space. I agree with Ben. Moving on to Enough Already. Enough Already 2023. Josh Agala, what have you had enough of from 2023?
I've had enough of that Bitcoin is bubbling the oceans and global warming is all to blame on. Just enough already with the nonsense and fear mongering around global warming.
Victoria Jones, Enough Already 2023.
The BlackRock ETF. I don't believe it. I don't believe it's a good thing. So anyway.
Yeah.
Ben Ark, Enough Already.
I think it's already happened, but I had enough. I had very much had enough of the argument, the fallback argument, when people were discussing drive chains, and then when people were discussing like ARC and other things, other scaling proposals, we should be looked at like properly, and there's some elements and they could be worked on and improved, whatever. But they're interesting, right? And I hate this argument that Bitcoin works great for me. I sent a Bitcoin transaction this morning and it cost me. And I'm kind of glad I'm glad of this ordinal fee hike because it shuts them up. There's people who are like, oh, Bitcoin is great for me. As long as it works for me, I don't care. And it's like, yeah, but don't you want it to work for the rest of the world? It doesn't need to work for the rest of the world. It just needs to work for me. So I'm glad that's gone out the window with the high fee shit. But long may it continue the high fees and shut those people up.
Dan Eve, enough already.
Well, unfortunately, Barry met his demise earlier in the year. Larry met his demise earlier in the year. And so I think, oh God, that sounds a bit too sinister now, but Gary Gensler needs to go.
No more
Absolutely.
pigeons for Dan. No
Don't
more
be gossip
pigeons.
or anything like that. Jesus.
2023. Enough already. Let's see. Josh Shigala, did we start with you? Yeah, we started with Josh.
Yes.
So enough already. ETF approval stories. I'm tired of them. I've covered them for a decade. It seems like a no-brainer. People don't want to hold Bitcoin. It's too complicated. There's numbers and hardware wallets. They want to buy it with their stock market money, their pre-tax money. They want to invest. They want to call up their broker, say, get me 10% of that Bitcoin thing. And then they want to hang up the phone. They don't want to know anything about addresses or QR codes or any of that stuff. But we've been blocking them from the ETF for over a decade for no good reason. And we're almost there. Enough already. I want it to be approved, and then we'll never talk about it again. Moving on to one of the most important categories of 2023, Bitcoiner of the Year. Victoria Jones, who's your pick for Bitcoiner of the Year 2023?
Well, she isn't strictly a Bitcoiner, but I think the spirit of what she says is definitely in tune with my understanding of Bitcoin, and that's Whitney Webb. I really enjoy, some of her interviews. I mean, some people would, she's not, her first job isn't Bitcoin, she's a journalist. Some people would describe her, I would say, as a conspiracy theorist for normies, because she does so much research in those areas, actually breaking down for ordinary people, these are the corrupt things that are going on behind the scenes. She really seems to understand the corruption with the financial system, and she agrees with me that all of the, well, she doesn't agree with me, probably doesn't even know who I am, but I agree with her that the ETFs and the existing financial system is something that should be kept separate from Bitcoin. And so for that reason, she's the only person who I see articulating that really well. And so, she gets my vote for Bitcoin of the Year.
Ben Ark, who is the Bitcoiner of the Year 2023?
Alan Bitts, middle-aged developer, hiding from his wife on his computer, just grinding out code every night, like contributing to all these projects, building all these dependencies that everybody can use. He's such, he's like an unsung hero, not a big social media presence or anything, not a talking head telling us what Bitcoin is, just actually grinding and building and helping scale Bitcoin with all these amazing solutions. So yeah, Alan Bitts, long may stay with us. I know he's busy in his day job. I don't know where he finds time to work on all the Bitcoin things he works on, but yeah, man, what a guy! It's just a phenomenal developer. You just got to look at his commit history, and it's just like dark greens every day on GitHub, on every other thing. Yeah,
Did you say Ellen Bitts or Alan?
Alan,
oh,
Alan
I was
Bitts.
going to say.
Oh no, there's
Ellen Bitts again.
There's Ellen Bitts as well. She's a good developer.
Ellen, as in EWL.
Yeah, and there's Ellen and there's Alan, and they're just contributing to all these projects and building all these dependencies out. And the unsung heroes. And
did you say orphan once or often frequently? Often only once. Oh, frequently.
Yeah. So props to
all
them.
right, Alan Bitts. It was confusing to me too.
Alan.
Alan and Ellen.
Alan and Ellen. The whole Bitts family.
It's the unsung, and they got little whatever. Give me a name quick. But no, it's the unsung developers in Bitcoin who are like building the shit, man. They're building these tools of liberation, and they don't care about the limelight, and it's incredible. They're just powering through and they're just solving problems and building cool stuff. And like there's so many of them, isn't it, in our world, and thank God for them.
Very strong. The unsung Bitcoin developer, Bitcoiner of the year. Dan Eve, who is the Bitcoiner of the year?
Oh, I mean, this is quite different. There's obviously lots of huge contributors, but in terms of people that have that have really been in the sort of news and making, I'd like to say so. So obviously, Michael Saylor's been doing a huge amount. They had a turnaround. They obviously almost got margin called, and on that same note, Nayib Bukele, like they got laughed at by the IMF and scorned by the international bank settlements and IBS or Bank of International whatever the final boss dude, the final boss dude. Augustus, no, it's not Augustus. Oh God! But anyway, that guy. And so yeah, so they got scorned and laughed at and blah blah blah, and they came that close to losing everything. And so it's really good to see that turned around. And again, certainly in El Salvador's case, that first real use, case of Bitcoin being used as a currency for a country. Perfect. I think really, really good. So yeah, I'm going to go for those two as a combined. But I think Ben made a good point of all the unsung developers that are coding away and don't really get much limelight and producing amazing software that people are using.
Josh Shigala, Bitcoiner of the Year 2023.
Yeah, I have to agree with Ben. It's all the developers, and it's not just the developers and the technicals, but it's the entrepreneurs that are taking the risk of doing stuff in this industry. I started Voltoro back in 2015, and even though that's a centralized exchange, it's still part of the Bitcoin industry, and it's very, very hard. It's hard enough building a startup in the normal world. It's like, as Tim Draper would call it, it's the hard things of hard things. Was it Tim Draper? I don't know. Maybe it was one of the other VCs. But anyway, it is one of the hardest things in the world is building a startup, and you just make it probably infinitely harder to build a startup in the Bitcoin space because you have to deal with so many ridiculous regulations, ridiculous fearful banks that will shut you down constantly. And then you've got hackers trying to break into you. You've got it's so difficult. And so the unsung heroes are really people that are building in this space, and the developers that are building in this space. My hat goes off to each and every last one of you that are trying to do a legitimate job.
And for Bitcoiner of the Year, he traveled to Majorca. He interviewed Peter Todd. He learned how to make omelets. He interviewed the creator of Electrum Wallet, Tomas, and Vlad from Bitcoin Takeover, created almost one Bitcoin group per week for the entire year, had guests from all over the world on the show, provides the show for free, never took bribes from any company, greatest of all Bitcoin predictor balls, truly the Bitcoiner of the Year, Mad Bitcoins. Thomas Hunt, hey, that's me, Bitcoiner of the Year, again. Woo! It's a streak.
Yes.
Championship.
Well done. Congratulations, man.
I know, it was the best. I had no idea. I didn't prepare a speech, completely unprepared for this. I had no idea that I would be Bitcoiner of the Year again, like trophies, celebrations. There's going to be a parade tomorrow. But for now, honorable mention, runner up. Who gets honorable mention? Somebody that we should mention. Maybe we haven't mentioned him yet. Ben Ark, honorable mention for Bitcoiner of the Year.
Ooh, yeah, man. Well, you said, I mean, the result was you in the last one, so I can't say you. I think, but similarly, Vlad, Vlad, our Romanian friend Vlad, he creates the Bitcoin Takeover podcast, and he does the magazines as well. Can be quite something of a controversial soul on the internet, on Twitter, but just for the amount of producers and the quality of it, And I get his magazines, and they're fantastic. They're really good, and his interviews are really good too. And he just kind of has that vibe like Bitcoin had before. Of I don't know, that kind of like that he's just kind of he's kind of weird, but in a really nice way, like a way which I feel comfortable with. And yeah, so I think he's kind of an unsung hero, just like grinding away, just and also going back to the last one with Alan Bits and Ellen Bits as well, before they got into developing and first and foremost, they were users. So the users are also, I mean, I know you can't just have everyone as your most influential Bitcoin of the year or whatever. But yeah, I would like to say everybody, because they everyone makes this world and of which we exist in, and we're all brothers and sisters. So but no yeah, I think Vlad does cool work, and we're just very impressed by the amount he produces. Anyone who produces stuff, just like you, Thomas.
Definitely shout outs to Vlad. Love the Bitcoin Takeover magazine. And I would like to award everybody as well, Ben, but we don't have enough.
Oh, he's cut. He's cut.
What don't we have enough of?
Let's
There
go
he
to
is. He's
Dan.
back.
Dan Eve, Bitcoiner of the year. My internet connection is unstable. Go ahead. Honorable
I think
mention.
my honorable mention is that I absolutely love I love Luke Deschier for his comical, he's like the guardian angel of Bitcoin, right? Like he really he really wants the best for Bitcoin. And it's just the funny comments he comes up with, like his like pesky ordinals tricking his node into into taking having JPEGs on it and stuff like that. I just think he's got he's an interesting character. So I think he's an alternative Bitcoiner of the year for me.
Josh Shigala, honorable mention.
Oh yeah. I'd have to say, yeah, I'd have to say, yeah, I'll give it to Vlad. I'll give it to Vlad as well. I think and actually Victoria Jones. Satoshi's page is fantastic. It's a great resource. It's a great way to catch up on history and to understand things at a deeper level. Vlad, his magazine is also really great in terms of debunking a lot of stuff, and it's just a good read, and it's a fun read, and there's a lot of effort that goes into both the work that you do, Victoria, and any journalist in the space does. It's a hard way to earn a living too, actually. So hats off.
Oh, thank you, Josh.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure.
I'd like to throw Adam Meister into the mix. Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, still doing his shows. I saw a live one the other day. He always tells people to live cheap and hodl more Bitcoin. I think that's great advice. Not everyone can live cheap, though, but he's got a great strategy and a style for doing it. Victoria Jones, honorable mention, Bitcoiner of the Year 2023.
Well, when I was looking at this category, I kind of, I'm really judging it based on who's kind of come across my radar. And in Britain, there's a new character called British Hoddle who has stormed out of the gate telling everyone just to get to 1 Bitcoin. He's got a very simple message. I think his background is his parents were into property and he's suddenly realizing why, Bitcoin's going to be a better investment in the future. He's way too into the ETF. So, but we won't go there because we all know how I feel about that. But, even regardless of the ETF, I think, condensing his message down to everyone needs to get 1 Bitcoin, I think it's a very worthy thing to do. And he's doing it with energy and very concise message. And I think he deserves props for that. So he got my honorable mention.
Very cool. Stack those sats. Honorable mention for Bitcoiner of the Year, I have Michael Saylor and Naive Bukali. They had the simplest strategy, buy and hold Bitcoin, but it really worked out for them. At one point, they were underwater. They even got rid of Saylor. They were going to kick him off the board. There was trouble in paradise. The IMF, as Dan mentioned, attacked El Salvador, told them they were no good. Their plan wasn't going to work, but now they're back in the black. Congratulations, honorable mention to Michael Saylor and Naive Bukali. And now the number one award of the year, Story of the Year. Ben Ark, what was your Story of the Year 2023?
But Story of the Year 2023. I can't think of one. I'm sorry. I don't know any stories. Can I come back? Can I just agree with somebody else when they say something?
We'll
Can you
come
put me
back to
later on?
Ben. Dan, Eve, Story of the Year.
Mine's a bit of a lame cop out one, but it's just that I think the long. I was just thinking the longest story of the year, which is like the ongoing saga of SBF and all the intricacies that with of that case and how that's panned out. That's just been very interesting to track, and hopefully we'll see the back of it in 2024, and we'll all just have like halvening hype and happiness. The three H's. Yeah, three. Oh, right.
Josh Higala's Story of the Year 2023.
Oh, well, there's a couple of really interesting ones. When KyberSwap, which is a huge decentralized exchange, has got hacked for like $50 million or something like that, and the hacker basically sent an on-chain message demanding that he basically gets full executive control over the exchange, over the decentralized exchange, and it's funny because it's meant to be this decentralized exchange. Obviously, there's a development group and stuff, and there's these roadmaps to try and release that. But that was funny that there was or interesting that there was this individual with this crazy demand and basically holding all these funds. The other one for me was the whole BitBoy saga of him getting arrested and and stuff, which is also I particularly like this guy. I think he's kind of annoying, but he's a character in the space. Now that we've lost all the OGs, what got phone calls coming in.
Trace Mayer, or I don't know if you're saying.
Yeah, no, BitBoy coming through and being arrested. That was also one of these things. Yeah, Trace Mayer, but who was, man, it's
Chris
very early
DeRose and Junseth and Bitcoin Uncensored.
Yeah.
They kind of had the spirit of BitBoy before he had it.
Yeah, that's right. And then and what's his name from McAfee? McAfee dying. We don't have him anymore. So we need these wacky characters in the space. That's good. We still have mad Bitcoins, obviously. There was this copycat NFT thing as well, if you're in the NFT space, where Bored Apes then sued these guys that just blatantly copied the Bored Ape yacht clubs and put them on a different chain. So yeah, these are all fun stories of the year, but nothing sort of super interesting to really go on about.
Victoria Jones, Story of the Year 2023.
Well, my story of the year is how well the Bitcoin price has done this year. Quite surprisingly, actually. I mean, as I was preparing for this show, I was looking back on some of my notes from the other shows that I've taken part in this year, and I came across one from the very beginning of the year where people were making predictions on what the price would be by the end of the year. And the prize goes to Carol Alexander, who's a financial analyst, I think, at University of Sussex or something, who predicted that the Bitcoin price would be at $50,000 at the end of the year, because she thought the FTX collapse would lead to a managed bull run due to whales propping up the market. Epic fails go to Mark Mollers, who predicted 10,000 Bitcoin price. The worst one was Eric Robertson, who predicted it would be $5,000. And Tim Draper, I don't know what he was thinking. He thought it would be $250,000. So, it just goes to show when we start looking at predictions for next year, chances are it'll be somewhere in the middle of all of the extremes that people tend to predict. So But overall, it was still, according to Forbes, Bitcoin was still the best performing asset of the year. Although Google points out that actually it was the Bitcoin companies who hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets, like Coinbase, MicroStrategy, and the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which rose almost 300% in value. So, the story of the year is Bitcoin, our favorite subject.
Ben Ark, do you have a story of the year? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I think I sent you a link. I don't know if you can play it, but I'm just going to go back to the liquid being used. Like, who'd have thought? It's useful. And Blockstream's back, baby. And I really like this little video. And I sent you the Twitter link, so hopefully you can play it. It's not very long. It's pretty funny. It's good.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
Peter, come take a look at this.
Look at this.
What's this? The numbers, they keep getting bigger and bigger.
The clicks are off the charts.
Yeah.
Yoshi, we're back.
Yes, sir. Hey, take a look. Whoa. Everything you got down.
He really loves that thing.
Oh,
I mean,
that was
that's
great.
that's a company which has been like building something for such a long time, man. And like and it's just what a great tool. And I'm glad people are finally bloody using it. So yeah, that's my my story of the year is Blockstream not dying and actually liquid being used.
That was a fun advertisement. Great story of the year. My story of the year is pretty much given to me by the media when I Google searched Bitcoin today. It's about the price, the price, the price, and the price. Bitcoin price rebounds up nearly 160%. They thought it was dead. They told you it was dead. They took down the ticker. They stopped talking about it. And again, that was the time when you needed to buy. Now that it's back up and they're talking about it all the time, they put the ticker back on there and everyone's into it. I don't know now, but that bottom signal was there. We all saw it. It was an amazing year for the bottom of Bitcoin. And that's about it for this show. Be sure to give us a like down below. Say hello in the chat or the comments. Anything else you guys want to say before we end the show? Victoria, we'll just go around in a circle. Victoria, anything to say for the new year?
No, it's been fun chatting with you all and, talking about my favorite subject. So hopefully join you again many more times in the new year.
Ben Ark, just a nice goodbye from you. Go ahead.
I love you all very much. And it's because this is the thing, we're coming out this kind of bare blood in the streets market, which we've had for a very long time. And now we've got the halvening, we've got the ETF. Next year is going to be a cracker, and it's going to go crackers. So like the Bitcoin price is going to be silly, and it's important to kind of look around the room at the people who, all the people who've been around over the past couple of years, where it's been, it's been in that bear market. Not that we care because we love Bitcoin and we keep building, but yeah, I love you all, everyone who stuck with us, and users, developers, contributors of any sorts. Just using Bitcoin is contributing, and journalists and everybody. So yeah, 2024 is going to be really one to look forward to.
Dan, Eve, in closing, go ahead.
Well, just thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for watching throughout the year as well. And yeah, I hope everyone has an awesome year and we keep on chatting about Bitcoin forever. Long live Bitcoin.
And Josh Agala, take us into the new year.
Yeah, I really want to thank all of our regulars, Proper Goal, Gerbot, and the rest. You know who you are. You're here every week supporting us, and really thank you. Lots of love and health, wealth, and wisdom for 2024. It's going to be a crazy, crazy year. On the cynical side, definitely check if your job is going to be taken by AI. If it is, start retraining, start figuring stuff out, because it's coming and we're on an exponential curve right now. If on another side, look at your health, be healthy for 2024, and health comes, then wealth comes. So yeah, 2024, here we go. It's going to be fascinating. thanks again for hitting that like button and subscribing to us. It's really great, and it's the longest running Bitcoin show in the world, and it continues to be. We don't get millions and millions of views, but I think here is where you get the alpha info. You get the info that's keeping it real, and yeah, again, thanks Thomas for putting it on every single week and collecting the troops like you do. It's really important. I think it's an important archive of this space, and what you have with your website that actually categorizes and organizes that. And thanks to DJ Booth for also helping out with that. And yeah, I don't want to take words out of your mouth. I know you've got lots of people to thank.
And then we want to thank Marwi for helping us schedule people to this show and helping fill in the details of the show, helping to categorize the episodes on the webpage. And I want to thank you guys, our panelists, and all of our other panelists who aren't here today for being part of the show. Nobody's paid to be part of the show. It's all a volunteer thing. People show up and volunteer their time. And like Josh said, it's the longest running Bitcoin show. It's a really nice archive. You can go back and watch it all. And someday someone will have to, some kind of a graduate student will be writing a paper on the Bitcoin group. And I'll be like, why did they make so many episodes? They don't even take a week off for Christmas. But yeah, thanks to everybody for watching. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.